Hello, this is Aaron from AaronOnAutos.com, and today I want to talk about driving from Seattle to Portland in a 2020 Bolt EV. Chevrolet's put some work into the little Bolt electric car and is aiming for a big payoff as a result. The Bolt gets more range, more safety tech, a couple of new colors, and will soon get a lot more marketing as Chevy ramps up the message for this little EV.
This episode brought to you by coffee.
When the Bolt launched in 2016, it had about 238 miles of range per charge. Its price tag was under $40,000 before incentives, and its design promised normal hatchback's looks. After the initial blast of its unveil and the short stint of promotion afterwards, however, the Bolt kinda sat on the sidelines. As a result, sales never really jumped. So when Chevrolet offered to let me drive the updated 2020 Bolt EV along the northwestern coast, I took the chance with some skepticism. How great could this car be if General Motors seemed to have forgotten about it? Turns out they didn't forget about the Bolt, they just concentrated advertising in key markets and worked to steadily improve the car's underpinnings. To start with, the primary concern with any battery electric vehicle is with range. The Bolt EV, while having plenty, was still not appealing to a broader market due to range concerns. What GM learned is that consumers need education about range estimation and what that means. So a series of outreach programs to do that has begun. Meanwhile, the battery techs at Chevrolet tweaked the Bolt cells to eke more range out of them without adding weight or size to those batteries. The result of that tweaking was a 21-mile increase in range for the 2020 model, boosting it to 259 miles of range per charge per the EPA estimates. Early one morning, with a fully charged battery pack and preconditioned climate setup for the car, I launched from downtown Seattle and headed towards the coast. A few things are key to how this trip played out. The car was fully charged and had already been climatized while plugged in. All checked and set up through Chevrolet's My Chevrolet app, which connects the smartphone to the car and allows a lot of useful things to be done remotely to the Bolt, whether it's plugged in or not. Things like interior temps, exterior temp checks, charge state, current vehicle status, door locks, seat heating, and others can all be checked and even set via the app. Once in the car and driving, my attention was mostly keyed towards the city's traffic, but after getting out of town and on the highway, I was able to focus towards the car itself and my use of it. Since the weather outside was nice enough, there was no reason to run climate inside, saving a lot of charge. Similarly, I made use of the one-pedal driving allowed through the low setting on the gear shift. Those familiar with the Toyota Prius B mode and the Nissan Leaf's one-pedal system will understand how this works. The idea is to use the motor as an engine brake to slow the vehicle and avoid touching the physical brakes. This converts kinetic energy of the vehicle into power for the batteries. Nearly all electrified vehicles have regeneration capability. One pedal setup just takes it to the next level for more aggressive regeneration. I quickly learned that it can be modulated in the Bolt by feathering the throttle to decrease the aggressiveness to suit the situation at hand. Thanks to Chevy's well-done and very gamified in-vehicle charts and metrics for power usage in the Bolt EV, all displaying on the large 10.2-inch touchscreen, keeping track of how varied driving conditions affect overall range is easy, and on the fly. After about 60 miles of freeway usage, I moved to side roads instead. That reduced speed to 55 miles an hour or less, and it gave a chance to see how well Android Auto can integrate mapping into the Bolt's infotainment. The Bolt does not have its own navigation on board, relying instead on the user's cell phone. There is an OnStar service which can be used as a map as well, but it requires a phone call from the car and clear reception. Since reception on this route was spotty and I had stopped to take photos and video anyway, it made more sense to use my phone. Integration of Google Maps through Android Auto is always iffy in my experience, and it didn't work well in the Bolt. The audio piped through the Bluetooth connection just fine, which was good enough for what I needed, but I could get no map. Rerouting away from freeways and going along more scenic side roads meant adding about 30 minutes to the total trip time, but it meant a better experience. There wasn't an easy way to estimate range gain from the change, but I assumed that I could get at least 5% back. Later analysis show I only gained about 2%. Proceeding along the off-freeway route, I made it to the Washington-Oregon state border, driving across the 4-mile-long Astoria Megler Bridge. Say that 3 times. I officially entered Oregon and marked 192 miles of driving on the journey. There's about 30 more to go to get to my end-of-day stop in Cannon Beach, Oregon. It's a scenic drive along the coast of northern Oregon and well worth the time taken. The next morning, hitting the road very early to make the airport before 11, I reviewed what had been learned and thought about the 2020 Bolt EV as a car. Not as an electric car, just as a car. My personal feeling was that the Bolt is a good car for the compact segments. It needs some improvement, namely in its noise reduction, but it's otherwise very well done. There's plenty of cargo space, there's lots of passenger space, and the driving interface and controls layout is intuitive. The large greenhouse means there's a lot of visibility, and the overall feel of the car while on the road is nicely done. The Bolt's surprisingly quick, too, accelerating to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds without even trying. And it handles much better than most non-sports options. At $37,495 before incentives and delivery, and with 2 trim levels to choose from, the 2020 Bolt EV is a solid investment. There is some adjustment required when moving from gas to battery, but given the exceptional range of the Bolt, that transition is not as steep as it could be. I had almost no worries about range during my long drive in this car. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the 2020 Bolt EV. This has been Aaron from AaronOnAutos.com. Talk to you again soon.
Subscribe.